You're never going to believe this. The BBC, they're very concerned that vaccine hesitancy has taken hold in the wider mind nuts of the British public. Things are so bad, actually, that they've started using the word us instead of them, instead of calling everyone who has reservations about the vaccine a filthy right-wing anti-vaxxer chud. They've started actually making appeals to the normal people. You know it's bad. You know it's bad. The COVID-19 inquiry, which is now moving into examining people harmed by the vaccine. This is the part that a lot of people actually care about because they were like injured. You know, now, of course, they're like, oh, we want to hear your story. Yeah, well, you didn't want to no one wanted to hear their stories when it was actually happening, right? Maybe if you'd listened to these people's stories as it was actually happening, then, you know, we could have avoided this. But, oh no, right? So these are these people basically who've been like injured, clinically vulnerable families. No, clinically vulnerable families. I think these are the people who are still masking. They do have a section where they're going to be hearing from people who got vaccine injured. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But again, no one really cares, right? Like, look how little interactions these posts have. It's all over, right? Now, Richard Tice is, you know, sort of being his usual semi-cucked self, talking about this as per usual. He wants to say the thing, but he won't say anything too controversial, which is why he'll never be an effective leader.
Let's stick with health, shall we? And Matt Hancock is going to be given evidence today in front of the COVID inquiry. The focus today is going to be on vaccines, the vaccine injured and those who died in the pandemic. What would you like to see happen in that instance to those who were injured and those who died?
Well, we've got to have some changes to the vaccine compensation scheme. I'd like an apology, actually, from Mr Hancock. I mean, what he did during that was utterly just horrendous at every level. And I think we've got to have more honesty that, you know, whilst the vaccine was safe, and if it was safe for many people, we have to be honest that for some people, and probably a larger number of people than many would like to admit, actually it has caused harm, and therefore you've got to look at the compensation scheme. And you know, these are difficult issues for many people, including many professionals who at the time bought into the consensus establishment narrative.
But that's the same with any medicine. Isn't it? And any vaccine and any medicine
correct.
at all. But is the sense that not that something was necessarily done wrong in one sense, but the fact that it was so mandated? Is that part of the issue? Choice was removed.
If you'd been more honest with people, saying, look, this is an urgent vaccine, and we think that it's appropriate for what was originally said, which was the elderly, I think above the sort of 65, 70s. But then the narrative changed, and all of a sudden they wanted everybody to be vaccinated, and we stood against that. We said, we don't think that's appropriate, in particular, all the way down to children. And you know, I think some very bad stuff took place. So you know, I just think we have to be honest about people. Say, look, it's urgent. This is an emergency vaccine. We think it's right, but equally, you know, it's got to be a voluntary basis.
Tice, you're such a cuck. I don't have footage of Hancock talking to the inquiry, but I can tell you exactly what he's going to say right now. He's going to basically say, I did nothing wrong. Everything was awesome. Any mistakes, like, you know, we couldn't have known what happened at the time. Hancock he's not going to say anything. But don't worry, bros. Soon the scourge of misinformation in the UK is going to be addressed. So from July, people are going to have to robustly verify in order to browse porn. How are they going to do this robust verification? They're going to demand photo ID, run credit card checks, or you can just scan your face. Now, what they really want, of course, is this face scanning technology. This is what they're going to be using in Australia, I'm pretty sure. They really want the ability to tie an internet account and the person using that internet account to a facial ID, right? So that if you go on the internet and you say any naughty words, of course, they know exactly who you are and they know where to send the hurty words police in order to arrest you. This whole like pornography thing, I think is just like, look, don't get me wrong. I don't want kids watching pornography either. But I don't think that the government really gives a shit about this. I think what the government really gives a shit about is people questioning the narrative and questioning their power base, right? It has been a long, long tradition of using pornography and think of the children as the beachhead in order to crimp free speech. And I suspect, in fact, the way this bill is worded is that any social media platform that allows pornography, you're going to have to do this ID check in order to access. So that means Twitter, that means Telegram, that probably means Facebook as well, not YouTube, presumably. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see like what actually happens. They've got a thing, email-based age estimation. What the hell does that mean? What, they send you an email and say like, what, write 100 words, right, on like why you want to like jack off to this thing? Oh my God, fucking. So, yeah. So, you know, it's coming, bros. It's coming. They clearly cannot have a situation where people are allowed to question the narrative. There's a new law as well on the books they're trying to get through, where you won't be able to say anything offensive in a pub because it might affect the rights of the staff there. And if the pubs don't police speech within their pub domains, they could get like massively fired. Again, it's starting with things like, oh, you're not allowed to say that, like, you know, trans women are men and all this kind of like other stuff, but we know where it's going to go. We know where it's going to go. This is the holy grail, right? Like, they really want to get back to Twitter 1.0. They love that, right? Like, Twitter 1.0 was basically their wet dream, right? Where just anyone who had anything to say, counter the narrative, was like, well, you can just shut the fuck up, right? And there was no leakage from, you know, the small vocal minority over to the mainstream. So I guess we're going to see where this goes as well.